This is dried seasoned sugar maple I'm working with. I don't want to work with, I should say I don't want to work with green wood. I'm not having any luck working with green wood. It carves really easy. And then it breaks your heart when it cracks as it dries. So when I want something that is going to actually last, something that'll be a usable product when I'm done, I just go straight to the dried seasoned wood. So what I think I'm going to do for this mallet, this is a branch that I've chosen to make the handle out of. It's going to have a natural swell at the bottom when I'm done. So roughly it'll look something like this. Okay, hold it in there, right? It'll look something like this when it's done. So I'm going to carve do the mortise and tenon. What I'm thinking, I got the idea from a cane I was doing, is trying to leave the bark on this one. This wood all dried with the bark on there very, very tightly. And usually when it dries on, it wants to really stay on. So I want to come in, I think, and just clean this out down to the sapwood, expose it all the way around, but maybe a nice clean line through there. So I think the best knife to do that with may be this little guy here. We'll see what 3/4 of an inch looks like. It might not be enough, it may look silly. But I don't want to just do a full removal of the bark. I want to do a nice transition from the bark down to the sapwood, because the bark itself has a cool texture and a cool green. And if this works out going around the edge like this, which this knife is not, like I sharpened it at a different angle, 25 degrees per side, which would be more like where you would, you know, you're getting up there in cleaver territory. But it is cutting through this bark really nice. Don't worry about getting the bark removed, and then I'll come back and worry about straightening the line out. Let's get the bark removed all the way around fairly evenly. I don't know if it's going to show up. But there's definitely a pattern in there that's going to show up all the way around. So I don't want to lose that. Okay, I feel like I'm running off a bit from that side, so I'm going to go to this side where I started and start working it back the other way. Make sure they line up. Because if not, I could be chasing this all day, you know, spiral around here and end up with no bark on this. So I'm starting just behind the belly of that blade on these push cuts, and then pulling the belly through it, and it's naturally giving me a slicing action. If I was down here more, it's going to cut, but to get the nice slicing action I would have to pull the blade back. But you naturally get that slicing action by turning that radius part of the blade through there. It comes away a lot cleaner. So, quite a chunk of wood to hold here, so my hand is already starting to cramp a little bit. But that's okay, that's part of why we're doing this, get these hands toughened up. That's my advice. You've got an appendage, a body part that is not working so well, start using it more. So that's what we're getting so far, and I want to bring it all down to look like this area here, so that pattern starts showing up. So I think I will go through one more pass with this knife, get the bulk of that off of there, and then I think I'm going to take it and do just little scallop cuts right along the edge. I don't really think I like the way that's going to look. So I think we'll skip those scallop cuts before we get too far into them. Yeah, see, this is great for removing bark, but actual carving blade, it does not really serve that purpose well anymore. probably would do great in greenwood, but this hardwood, it does not like it. Before we get too far, let's catch the other side up. I've basically gone from about the edge of this to the top of this primary grind on the bevel. You know, if I lay my knife up there, that's where it's lining up, so I'll just repeat the same thing down here. And I'll do that by laying that bevel there and just standing the knife up. Like so. Give myself a little cut mark to start. And we'll carry that all the way around. You know, many think that because you are carving a piece of wood and not working from a blueprint, you're just free to just do whatever willy-nilly, but you know, that's fine if you were trying to luck into something. But though I don't have it drawn out, I still do have somewhat of a print in my head. I definitely have a design idea that I want to stick to. So I want to be intentional about my cuts and my decisions to make those cuts. So not only am I trying to keep this even, but I want to keep the thickness of that bark layer that I'm leaving. I want to leave that even so that when I come through with my finer edge and start trying to transition this, they look the same on each side. And I am working with natural logs, so it's definitely not perfectly round. The last mallet I did, I took the time to cut the heartwood out and hand carve it perfectly round, or as close to perfect as I could get. And one moment, because I've got a dustbin right here, and I have a broom right here, and I am carving right onto the floor. So let me correct that. Where did I put my chip pan? I have no idea, but this will work for now. Slide this out, and I will carve my mess into there. Quite interesting. I don't know what I got on this blade. The whole coating is coming off, so that's neat. Project for another day. So I think that means it wants wood scales. I've been getting so many solicitors coming to the door, and they are reaching past the sign that says no soliciting. So today, right beneath that, I hung another sign explaining what soliciting is. So I think we will soon find out if these people can read. Because if not, maybe that's why they're out there knocking on doors, bugging people all the time. But I have had 3 people come to my door today to ask me, who am I voting for? And I say, well, that's my business. And that should be everybody's answer. This is cutting pretty good. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. That's looking good. Let me show you, that's what we're getting so far. Adjust my light here a little bit. See that grain starting to, pattern starting to show up all the way around. So I want to highlight that a bit. Now that it's exposed and I know how deep that layer is, what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll work the very edge of that down to raw wood, and then I will have found the top and bottom of that layer, and I'll be able to transition it nice and clean. See if I can get you in here a little better. think that's gonna look cool. So I definitely think I want more than that. Like, when I came back with 3/4 of an inch and started before I started going down, but I think I want to come in quite a bit more. But we will just start backing it off slowly. I want to rush through it because it's not like I can glue it back on. If I get to a point where it's not what I want, and this is probably going to get set aside, turned into something else, and I will have to go cut another log and start over. I think if I do this right, I'll have the bark pattern. The pattern of the bark changing from the rough bark down here to the cadmium layer. I think that'll look kind of neat. I may be wrong. We'll see when I'm done. Different colors doesn't make it easier to, this is almost a walnutty color back here under this layer, and then I've got my dark color here, the bark, and then this more blonde color. This blonde color is what I'm trying to taper down to this, and with it being a higher contrast color like that, it's making it real nice to keep even. See where I've been, what I've already cut. I don't know, that looks so cool, and it's smoothing out so much. I am really getting tempted just to expose it all, but I must resist temptation. If I get it to my goal, and I'm still wanting to do that, I may just keep carving away, but for now I'm going to stick to the plan and just keep backing this edge back. I could stick this on a belt sander, knock these down. I'm going to lose all of that pattern, all that texture. It's just going to take it and drag it all one way, burn through it. When your tool's good and sharp, and you cut through, and it actually severs those fibers instead of tearing them. It's really nice what it a lot of times will reveal hiding underneath. When it doesn't look very grainy, or it doesn't look like it has a lot of texture going on within the wood, you cut through it with a good sharp blade, and it comes to life, almost like going across it with the hand plane. So I'm getting under this blonde wood here and taking just that cut was a little deep, taking just the layer underneath of it. You guys can see how that's carving or not, but it is cutting like the wood. It is not cutting like the bark. It's definitely a hard, dense layer. So let's flip this over and cut this side up, which we can go a little bit quicker now that we know how deep we can work that without messing that grain up. Rest this down here a bit, give my hand a break from gripping onto that. And I've been having a lot of people on my live streams lately asking me about wood carving. My best advice is to start off just to get a knife that you're comfortable with. Any knife. This is a you know, maybe a $20 pocket knife here. $20 knife here. This one is you know, this one is a little bit more. That's about a $70 knife, but you know, an old Gerber is about $40. You can get in here with that if it's sharpened properly. Just get a piece of wood, get a knife, and start cutting. Before you start worrying about carving wood, just get comfortable cutting wood by hand. Whittling is cool, but don't focus on making anything. Just get comfortable cutting a piece of wood. You know, even if it's not a stick, just grab a random scrap and start cutting it. See if you can cut a nice smooth chamfer on something. This side's been untouched. Found my camera there. This side's been untouched. Flip it over. You know, this is a piece of poplar that's dry. Does not lend itself well to being cut with a knife. Let's see if you can do it. Put a nice little chamfer down something. See if it cleans up. You know, just do something intentional. And practice doing intentional things with the knife before you worry about carving. Because that's going to teach you a lot about wood, your knife. It's going to teach you a lot about your hands and what they're willing to do, what they're capable of. But being that this knife is fairly straight up to about here, and it's a gradual curve, really the only belly I've got is right up through here. So now that I've switched knives, to get that same push cut action where I slice as I turn, I've got to really use just the tip of that. So whereas the blade's about the same length, I've actually got less blade that I can work with than with this blade. because of the blade shape, that belly starts much farther back. I can get behind it here. So again, just like on the other side, I'm going to go around and expose that grain. And then once I've done that all the way around, I'll come back through and work that edge back. It's better to do that and take the extra cuts and the extra time and prevent yourself from going too far, kicking yourself in the ass later that you rush through it. And you know, taking the time to get to know your knives and everything, if that frustrates you, if that takes too long, then knife carving is not what you need to practice. You need to practice patience before you try to get into knife carving. Because if you are not a patient person, and knife carving is something you want to do, it will force you to learn patience the hard way. And I get asked a lot if I get splinters doing this, and the answer is no. This is pretty nice. It's much more splinter free than working with lumber or working with like an old piece of firewood. I mean, technically this is firewood, but it's not like the dry bundle that you get at the gas station that's been split by a machine, ripped apart. It has 10,000 toothpicks hanging off of it. So, grain is getting exposed on both ends. I'm really liking that. I do think I'm going to work that back some more. But for now, I think I will start working on this handle here. I've got to decide which way I want this head to be on this mallet. And I'm thinking, because it's got, you guys can see that shape there, it's like round all the way around here, and then it's got this bit of a, but when you're using a mallet, generally you are striking something like this. I don't feel the bottom gets as much use, so I will make that the bottom, just to keep it more symmetrical when you're looking at it left to right. So due to that, when I check to make sure it's going to go through, I want to make sure that that's the way it's oriented. A little more visible from this end. You can see how that's sticking down there. So I want to make sure that when I cut this back, that I cut deep enough. Yeah, you can see it kind of rolls up there. So I'm going to make that there. So I will need to make sure. Let's get a piece of scrap here. And to make sure I stick through. That's probably good. About 3/4 of an inch to stick through. I will most likely carve this back to about there. And that's going to give us plenty of stick through. Maybe a little more than I need. Well, that's quite a bit more than I need. So, just a tiny little tick mark there. Nothing to do any damage. Okay. And so my plan is to do a 1-inch mortise and tenon. So I want to make sure when I carve this down, I do not go below 1 inch. If I do, I'm going to spread this pretty dang far, or I would have to make the mortise and the hammerhead a lot smaller. So let me just double check before I start cutting that that's going to be a good distance. So that would be sticking out. And those marks I made with the knife were so fine that I have lost them. Okay, there's one. Okay, and there's the other. All right, so I can come back to this far. All right. So let's start getting this cleaned up. One second, guys. Okay, I'm back. So this is what I'm going to use. This is just a 1-inch hole saw, so it's got a 1-inch diameter. There's no drill in there. But I'm going to use that as kind of my guide. So I will get the end of this cut down to where it just fits into that. I'm going to do my best to keep it as round as I can. I do believe I'm safe to take this whole first cut that I'm taking all the way around without going undersized. Okay. So I'm actually just down to the size of the outside of this. So I'm definitely safe to keep going. I'm going to go ahead and start moving it back a little. I hope you guys can see that, but I'm not moving the knife at all right now. I'm moving the stick because if I'm focusing on trying to keep the stick round. Maybe a bit unorthodox, but that is what works for me. And this is only going to work with a good sharp blade. Okay, I'm safe to keep going, which is good because I want to get this. I mean, this would get cut off anyways when it pokes through, but I want to cut past this layer and make sure there's nothing weird going on under this before I get too into this, dedicating it as a handle, and then find out I have to start over because the end of this wood is no good, but it should be fine. I think that is just a splitting the end of the wood from where I cut this dry hardwood with a pair of loppers. I can go slightly under. I don't have to be exactly at 1 inch. I can go slightly under if I'm using trying to achieve a 1 inch mortise and tenon, because I can always put a thicker wedge in up to a point. There are definitely limits as to how much room you can make up with a wedge. We are getting there. We're definitely getting there. So I will just keep moving back. I'm pretty confident this is going to work out. I'm going to keep pushing this back. Again, I'm not too worried about this little split here on the end. I believe I did that by crushing it with the loppers. But I definitely want all of this bark out of there. I want on the inside of that, I want hardwood against hardwood. I don't want any of this bark, any of this cadmium layer in there that can be soft or hold moisture. That's just going to add to the shrinking and swelling that occurs from humidity. Looks a little out of round now, but once I get this top part of this layer off over here, correct that. You guys see how I'm cutting? My finger is below this, so if that slips through, it's going to slip past my finger. Always try to keep your digits out of the path to your blade. But again, my elbow is anchored here, this is anchored here. This is really the only motion I've got. There's no pulling. If I were pulling through this, I wouldn't even have my finger that close. I would bring it back and grip it this way and pull through it. Or better yet, I would hold the knife tight and pull the part away from it. Is a even safer way of doing that. That way you remain in control of that blade. Just keep checking. I'm definitely getting close. I mean, I can just get that on there now. The nice thing is, you can just get that on there. You get it on, give it a little turn backwards. And I now have a line. So if I come back here, where I put my little mark, pretty safe to cut from here all the way up to that line all the way around. It didn't touch right back on this side, so being that it didn't touch there, I'm not going to remove too much on this past getting it down to this layer here. The moment I start seeing this color wood come through, I'm going to stop. But on the rest of this, I'm good. So anywhere that it's touching from here around, I should be good to come through from that mark all the way out. And just start stripping this back. Like I said, I want to be slow and intentional in the beginning. My first cuts, find out where everything is. And I started where this is hitting, and we're going to carry it around to where it stopped hitting, which is back over here. And my reason for that is, like I said, I want to take that last side just to a cleanup, bare minimum, because we're already not hitting on that side at the end of that handle. make sure I'm keeping it straight. I'm not running off. That went kind of deep there, so let me make sure I didn't just screw myself. And we're okay. I just gotta make sure I get the rest of this off. So that doesn't go any farther. There we go. Getting any of that soft stuff off of there. But I want to stay above that, just above that 1 inch mark if possible. And then come back and do a nice finish cut. But I will wait until the finish cut after I have the hole in the head done to make sure it's necessary, because I don't want to go undersized if I don't have to. Okay. So it's looking pretty good. I'm going to clean up right through here because I can see a high spot. I can feel a high spot. There we go, that's nice. Okay, so I am gonna get off of here and I'm gonna work on this later. Thanks.